Hello, Dr. O'Connor. This is Tira. I wanted to kind of give you just a reflection, or I guess this is like just a digital journal, visual journal to show you about my process, or just in general, like the what I figured out at the end of this project. This is supposed to complement my 14-minute presentation that I sent you just about the physical processes of my project, in a sense what I had to do to create it on the site and the converting and all that kind of stuff. This is more of the mental elements and yeah, the more reflections, the more reflection idea of the whole process. So first, I just want to share with you the reason that I sort of chose this idea, and I don't know if I even told you this on in Ireland, is I set out to Ireland with a tape recorder. Like I said in my other presentation, I had my just a Tascam recorder that I thought was pretty good, but I ended up just using my Android phone. But ever since I was little, I enjoyed people's voices and how they told their stories, their accents, um, the words they chose, that kind of thing. So I used to carry around a red tape recorder, which looks like the one in this picture here. And around, I guess, 6, 7 years old, I would carry this around with a cassette tape and I would record people. I'd make radio shows with my friends. I always enjoyed audio and of course visual too, but I think I'm more of an auditory learner. So when I went to Ireland, I had this idea of just interviewing either people about the about oral history, about finding your roots in a sense, and then also this turned into just interviewing people about their stories and mainly librarians because me going into this field, I enjoy hearing from people who have already been in the field how they handled things, their process of becoming, their journey to becoming, in this case, a librarian, and then seeing if I'm similar in my steps or what differed, and just also sage-like advice they can offer to new librarians or new information professionals. So I set out with my phone. It ended up being my phone, and I ended up having the idea to interview, of course, the information professionals that we met. And I focused on Northern Ireland. I don't know if this was because I had just more energy at this time. We went and Belfast, Northern Ireland was the first place we went. And so I think I just had this fire underneath me that was ready to interview people. And after doing interviews in Northern Ireland, I tended, I think my steam ran out sort of when I got to the southern part of Ireland. But I also took your advice and I also wanted to make sure that I kept a focus and I didn't get too broad. So my idea was to focus on Northern Ireland, in the reason I just told you, because I kind of lost some energy, but at the same time I realized I wanted to focus on where the troubles really was prevalent and how these librarians handled the situations and the past in general. I chose 5 professionals. I chose and I already go over this in my other video, but Carol Conlon, Tracy McCloskey, Mark Knowles, Mary DeLargy, and Gavin Carville. These professionals really stood out to me with their stories and their paths to becoming what they are. A lot of them had so much dedication, it was insane. For example, Mary DeLargy was, I mean, in the business, this is her right here. Um, was in the business for 35 years. She drives 2 hours from Derry on a train. I'm sorry, she doesn't drive, she rides to Linden Hall Library because she loves working there. um, and it's the same for a lot of these folks. They're in it for the act of service. They're in it for the love of sharing educational resources with their patrons. So these people rose to the surface as the ones I wanted to tell their story. And again, in the site that I share with you, in the interviews, listen to their voices, listen to their stories, and their helpful nature and their dedication to this field. My questions centered around each interviewee telling their career stories first. The first question I always asked was, what led you to this career? And sort of telling me that, asking them to tell me their CV or their resume. But again, it's something I could read on paper, but it was wonderful to hear their voices and to hear what they highlighted, what they didn't, what they didn't highlight. Again, then I went into sort of things that are common that we talk about I noticed that we talked about in library courses in my past classes, such as neutrality, the library's relevance to, in a sense, the public, to society, and that kind of thing. I also talked about their career, or asked about their career focus, and also it just came out in their stories. When they would begin to tell them, you would see that, say, Gavin enjoyed the digital IT sort of stuff and that sort of archiving. Yet, Mary DeLargy enjoyed oral history and genealogy, and she dealt with a lot of, yes, IT stuff, but she loved more of the book and the printed word. We also talked about their career pathways, like I mentioned in the career stories bullet point before. And I love this part because I think in every part of my life, I love, again, to hear advice that, in a sense, experts who have been in the field for a while can offer to new information professionals in this case. I know when I was becoming a massage therapist, I had people, mentors that I really spoke to first. And so this was sort of a selfish thing for me in this project, is I did speak to these folks to kind of get an idea of what they would, advice they would give to new professionals. And those you can hear in their interviews when you listen to them. And the common threads that I really found were that each story involved conflict, triumphs, and then all of course what lies in between those, the gray areas, I guess you would call. Um, and then that all information professionals have a helpful nature, the love of educational resources, and are deeply embedded in the service industry. And what I mean by that is, they love working with people. They loved helping people find exactly what they need. They enjoyed the challenge of that aspect as well. They basically, a lot of them said they had no idea what would come into the door, what question would come into the door, but they enjoyed the challenge of trying to address that question. And the next thing was each Northern Ireland librarian or library staff member carries a resilience with them. And they said this in the interviews, most of them, that they feel it comes from years of conflict in their actual country. They've dealt with the Troubles and with all of the other history of conflict, and you can tell that they have this resilient nature from this. And I know that we looked at I know a lot of us talked about and noticed that Northern Ireland libraries tend to follow a strict format and have a little bit, I think, or a lot less freedom in what they do in their libraries. So compared to Southern Ireland or Ireland libraries. But I did still notice that the Northern Ireland information professionals still seem to work with what they have to address the needs of their patrons. This was one thing, is that they tried to work within that framework that they had of libraries and I. And then some are doing political collections, upholding Irish history, and helping those in need who are in the poorer parts of Northern Ireland. So each, with this bullet point, what I'm trying to say is that each have their niche and their focus. Um, and the last bullet point is that all of them seem to be upholding the written, digital, and spoken word, and just trying to make sure that they're upholding all the tenets that even that we learn in our classes in the LIS program in the States, upholding all those same or similar tenets that we do. So the last thing is my reflection in general is listen to people's stories. Every story involves challenges and triumphs, and we can learn from these and improve. So in general, in our life, this can happen. This is a key thing I think we can do, but also in our careers, and especially in a field that we are in, of helping people and making sure that everybody has access to educational and technological resources. I think there's a fight in all of us when I hear when I hear the stories of these librarians, and then when I also ask librarians in the States. I'm just curious I would love to go to other countries and just interview librarians or information professionals that, to see if we all have that common thread of making sure access is for everyone, of educational and technological resources. If you have any questions about my project, please feel free to ask me, Dr. O'Connor. And I again want to thank you for creating this class. Um, it has helped me so much. It got me a job at the TRC. It has helped me realize kind of a focus of what my career could be like. I think getting out of our boxes and experiencing life like I spoke about in my presentation 4 weeks ago, for this summer LIS 688 class. I think it's important that all of us have that element of experiential learning, and this was a key class for me, that I will continue to talk about, as my career, gets further and further, as I get further into my career as an information professional. Thank you.